Statistics Korea has announced a new and improved indicator to help read the unemployment landscape in Korea. As fine dust comes sweeping in from China, Seoul and Beijing agree to work together to reduce and prevent it in the future. And the Center for Unified Future of Korea has opened its doors to provide a virtual experience of what a unified Korea might be like. Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Thursday, November 13th. I'm Luke Clary. How do you define unemployment? That's the question gripping Statistics Korea, which has just announced a new and improved unemployment indicator to better reflect the reality of the job market in Korea.
Students in this large classroom are studying for nationwide exams for public employment. But they're not included in the unemployment statistics because they're considered as not seeking jobs. College graduates who work only 2 or 3 hours at convenience stores are classified as employed, so they're not considered jobless even when they're looking for jobs. Because of these unrealistic statistical criteria, last month's unemployment rate rested at 3.2%.
저희 거만 해도 한 두세 명밖에는 안 됐던 것 같아요. 바로 취업하는 사람. 공무원 준비하는 사람들도 엄청 많은 걸 여기 주요한 바도 엄청 많은 걸 볼 때 많이 지금 현실하고 많이 다른 것 같긴 해요.
Statistics Korea has therefore announced an adjusted unemployment rate in accordance with the International Labor Organization standards. Until now, those who actively sought jobs for the previous 4 weeks but failed to get jobs were considered as unemployed. But Statistics Korea also included those who want to be employed although they did not actively sought jobs, and those who looked for jobs but failed to land employment because of temporary reasons. The new unemployment rate also included part-time workers seeking for permanent jobs. When these new criteria are applied, the number of unemployed in October increased to 2.87 million people, and the unemployment rate more than triples to 10.1%.
노동시장의 다양한 상황을 파악할 수가 있고 관련 정책 활용한다 아마 활용될 수 있을 거로 기대가 됩니다.
Korea is the first country to announce an adjusted unemployment rate following the ILO or International Labor Organization criteria.
South Korea is hit by ultrafine dust coming from China around this time every year. South Korea and China will work together to reduce and prevent the annual coming of the dust, which has serious health effects.
Visibility is poor in Beijing, China. The problem is due to air pollutants emitted from cars and factories. Starting in November, ultrafine dust is transported from China to South Korea on northwestern winds. With the increasingly severe air pollution in China, Seoul and Beijing have announced plans to launch joint environmental protection projects. From November 13th to the 16th, the two countries' environment ministers will hold meetings in Beijing and Shandong province to discuss measures to reduce ultrafine dust. South Korean companies will install anti-air pollution facilities at 3 thermal power plants and multiple steel plants in China. The two sides will sign an agreement on the joint project in a ceremony.
금년 7월 3일 한중 정상회담 때 제철소 한 3군데 내지 5군데의 미세먼지 이런 제거 사업을 공동으로 하자.
South Korean environmental companies expect the joint projects will allow them entry into the Chinese market.
경험이 많은 한국 기업들이 중국 시장에 있어서 사업 전망에도 큰 도움이 될 것 같습니다.
The efforts also reaffirm the two countries' plans to strengthen bilateral cooperation in the environment field, as stated in the recent free trade agreement. As such, South Korean environmental companies have high expectations for the joint pollution management projects.
The Center for Unified Future of Korea has opened its doors to provide a virtual experience of what a unified Korea would be like in the future. Visitors can reflect on unification through various displays and interactive activities.
Students climb aboard a model KTX train. The outdoor landscape rushes by before the scenes of the Korean peninsula 7 years after unification suddenly appear before their eyes. They take pictures with their friends in Pyongyang and travel the rough terrains of Mount Baekdu and the Gema Plateau. The children play exciting games like this one that teaches a song about the joys of unification and learn about the uses of assorted minerals buried deep in North Korea. They pretend to drive on an expressway linking Korea to China and even as far as Europe and Southeast Asia.
차를 타고 지금 가는 게 인도랑 중국이랑 이탈리아랑 베트남이랑 가본 게 참 신기해요.
The Center for Unified Future of Korea opened its doors 2 years after construction began. Visitors are now able to experience various aspects of a unified Korea. The center provides children and teenagers a chance to think more deeply about Korea's unification through many exciting interactive displays and activities.
통일이 되면 우리 인구가 많아지고 우리가 경제적으로 더 커지기 때문에.
When inter-Korean relations improve, there are plans for the center to be used for exchanges between the youth of the two Koreas, as well as for meetings and family reunions.
With a stagnant housing market and low interest rates, more and more landlords are opting for monthly leases over lump sum-based 2-year leases known as jeonseng. Monthly rent puts a bigger financial burden on ordinary people. Here's the story.
This man, surnamed Kim, lives in a home measuring 84 square meters. He pays a monthly rent of approximately $548 with a deposit of $73,000. The monthly rent accounts for 30% of his monthly wage, which is about $1,800.
월세 지출하고 애들 학원비며 학비를 뺀 나머지로 생활을 해야 되니까 한 달 생활이 굉장히 빠듯합니다.
The gist of the situation is that he must tighten his belt and cut down on consumption in order to pay the monthly rent. The increasing monthly leases also have negative effects on the nation's economy. Therefore, the supply of monthly leases must be increased through measures such as public rental housing. More monthly rental houses will encourage competition among landlords and bring down prices. It is also necessary to provide rent support for low-income earners.
월세 대출과 관련된 상품이라든지 월세와 관련된 부담을 낮출 수 있는 보증 상품을 개발하는 것들이 필요할 것으로 보여지고요.
Laws on housing leases will need to be revised to protect tenants' deposits and limit sudden hikes in monthly rental fees. The increased number of monthly leases is also shattering the dreams of many ordinary people who plan to purchase their own homes after living in lump sum deposit houses while saving the money they would need. This is why more long-term mortgage programs should be implemented, which allow people to pay their housing costs over the course of 30 years or more at a low interest rate.
Korea has demanded the Japanese government explain why it denied entry to Korean singer Lee Seung-chul. Meanwhile, Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries Lee Ju-young has voiced his intent to restart the suspended facility construction on Dokdo, possibly sparking another diplomatic dispute between Korea and Japan.
The Korean government summoned a Japanese official to demand a detailed explanation for why Korean singer Lee Seung-chul was denied entry into Japan. Oh Jin-hee, the head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Northeast Asia Division 1, met with Japanese Embassy's Minister Counselor of Political Affairs Yo Sonoda to inform him of Korea's deteriorating public opinion toward Japan over Lee's denied entry. The Korean official reportedly told the Japanese Political Affairs Counselor that the Korean people could not understand why the singer had no problems entering Japan on several occasions in the past, but was suddenly denied entry immediately following his performance on Dokdo. The Japanese embassy official reportedly said that the recent incident had nothing to do with Lee's performance of a unification song on the islets and repeatedly stressed that it was for other reasons. Meanwhile, Minister of Oceans and Fisheries Lee Ju-young spoke of intentions to restart the construction of an entry facility on Dokdo. It's being considered as Korea's exercise of its territorial sovereignty in the wake of Japan's unreasonable acts and assertions. Nonetheless, it seems like the Korean government is still going to be criticized for causing confusion by having overturned its decision to cancel construction and going ahead with building on the islets.
Uljin, North Gyeongsang Province, is home to a special species of pine trees with historical significance. Recently, hundreds of Kumgang pine trees have died out without a clear reason, and to make matters worse, pine disease is spreading in nearby regions.
This is South Korea's largest Kumgang pine tree habitat. The branches and leaves on some of the trees have turned gray. A closer look shows that their trunks have wilted and the branches are bare. Kumgang pine trees over 100 years old are dying.
예, 죽는 나무가요, 이거 자주 이거 발생한다, 이거 소문이 나는데 주민들이 많이 우려하고 이거 지금.
The Korea Forest Service has confirmed that approximately 240 Kumgang pine trees have died. The cause has not yet been identified. On top of the massive deaths, a pine tree disease is now spreading in nearby regions, posing a serious threat to the Kumgang pine tree species.
조선시대부터 왕실의 관각제나 또 궁궐의 목재로 사용될 만큼 아주 소중한 자원이었습니다. 그러나 이제 그 후로부터 굉장히 많은 지역이 훼손되었고.
The Uljin Kumgang pine tree forest measures 3,700 hectares, 4 times as large as Seoul's Yeouido, and is home to trees that are hundreds of years old. Currently, only 5 people are stationed to manage the valuable natural resource.
Small public buildings such as welfare and child care centers oftentimes look similar to one another, but recently, many small public buildings are starting to adopt more attractive designs.
This structure, reminiscent of an apartment show house, is in fact a public daycare center that opened recently. It's white on the outside, while on the inside it's well lit thanks to the large windows. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the children can see what's happening outside and learn while having fun as well.
제가 보기에도 예쁘지만 아무래도 제 애가 쓸 거기 때문에 제가 쓰는 게 아니라 애가 쓰는 거기 때문에 뭐 이렇게 눈높이에 다 맞는 위치에 시설들이 다 돼 있고 그래서.
And this place, decorated with geometrical wood installations, is the resting area of a college dormitory. The room was built to take advantage of the empty spaces in the parking lot.
이렇게 잘 꾸며놓은 거 보니까 예전보다 훨씬 더 친구들이랑 자주 와서 좀 여기서 놀게 되는 것 같아요.
These facilities were designed by public architects appointed by local governments. So far, 28 projects have been carried out. The results have been put on display at an exhibition.
좋은 공공공간이나 공공건축을 가꿔야 사실은 내가 살고 있는 주거 환경, 내가 살고 있는 이웃들과의 관계 이런 것들이 좋아지는 거죠.
The small steps to improve people's everyday lives have underscored the role of public facilities and buildings.
Many of the traditional musical instruments in North Korea are remodeled in Western style. They look and sound quite different from the original traditional instruments. Here's more.
This rendition of the folk song 도라지 sounds quicker and more upbeat than we're accustomed to. Another folk song, 아리랑, is performed with sophisticated techniques, lending it a mysterious atmosphere. They were all performed with North Korean instruments, which are westernized versions of traditional instruments.
생각보다 서양악기에 가깝고 특히 양금 같은 경우에는 들을 때 좀 신비로운 느낌도 있어서.
The westernization transformed the traditional pentatonic scale into the Western-style heptatonic scale. As a result, the kayagum has 21 strings instead of the usual 12. The rougher sounds characteristic of traditional instruments were removed to be replaced by clearer tones. For instance, a part was removed from the taegum to modify the opaque tone.
인민들이 좋아하는 음색, 인민들이 좋아하는 음악을 연주하는 것이 주요 목표입니다.
Unlike in South Korea, where unique traditional sounds are valued, traditional instruments in North Korea are transformed both in terms of shape and sound according to the purpose of their use.
Today, we introduce restaurants that offer good food at low prices. You don't have to worry about breaking the budget at these restaurants. Let's take a look.
In Mapo-gu, Seoul, this restaurant is packed with diners during lunchtime. The restaurant specializes in kalguksu noodles, which are a good choice when the weather is cold. But the noodles are served with hamburger steaks. Hamburger steak comes as a freebie for each bowl of kalguksu. One bowl of noodles and one steak should be enough for 2 hungry diners. How about the price? The kalguksu and steak set is just $4.54. And although it's a complimentary side dish, the steak is nutritious and high quality. The restaurant owner has done his best to offer thick, quality hamburger steaks on a minimum budget. One serving of steak weighs more than 300 grams. Customers are pleased with the restaurant's generous offerings.
가격 대비 성능, 가성비라고 하잖아요. 그러니까 맛도 좋고 가격도 좋고 그다음에 같이 먹는 사람들이 행복해하니까 그보다 뭐 더 좋을 게 있을까요?
Now we're going to a Chinese restaurant that offers jjajangmyeon noodles at a surprisingly low price.
짜장면 한 그릇에 1,000원에 판매하고 있고요. 그리고 곱빼기는 1,000원씩 추가하셔서 2,000원에 판매하고 있고 모든 메뉴가 10,000원을 넘지 않고 있습니다.
We made our way to the kitchen to see if the low price means poor quality. However, our concerns were groundless. The restaurant generously uses fresh ingredients to ensure the quality of jjajangmyeon noodles. These 3 dishes together cost less than a dish of fried pork sold at other Chinese restaurants. This is a really good deal that makes people happy. At dinner time, the restaurant is crowded with customers looking for something to fill their empty stomachs. This restaurant is famous for offering high-quality meat at cheap prices.
왕소구이 1인분에 3,300원.
Thick slices of domestic pork are offered here. That's a result of the restaurant owner's efforts to save on distribution costs.
오픈할 때는 정육점 거래를 했어요. 업체를 알아보니까 직거래해주는 회사가 있더라고. 정육해주는 회사가.
She sells more than 100 kilograms of pork a day. Both the owner and customers benefit from the low price strategy. Nothing is better than a good meal at a low price. Filling your stomach is the easiest way to make yourself happy, and it's always better if the satisfaction comes without spending a fortune.
Now we'll take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye.